Welcome to Sacred, the podcast that invites you to reclaim your intuition, resist exploitive systems, and remember the love that brought you to teaching and caregiving in the first place.
We are your hosts,
Angela Carolina Garcia
and Lauren Stubble. Join us on a rough and tumble journey of reckoning and transformation. Hey listeners, we're so delighted today to be sitting with Dr. Michelle Coleman. I first heard her speaking about the work that she does in the context of RAD, reactive attachment disorder. That was a different podcast. And in that podcast, I was like, tears were just like pouring forth. And I was like, people can heal. Just so, I was so moved. And when I told Angela Carolina about Dr. Coleman's work, and we realized that she's in New Mexico, where Angela Carolina's family is. We were just like, okay, can we please talk to you on the podcast? So we're going to do that. And first, as usual, let's get grounded. So wherever you are, if you're seated, allow yourself to feel the seat underneath you. And if you're standing, feel the floor, the earth underneath your feet. And then bring your attention to your breath. And no need to change anything about it. Just notice how it is today. It can be bumpy or smooth. It can be deep or shallow. However it is for you today, just notice. If it feels good to lower your eyes or close your eyes, maybe that might even bring you into closer relationship with your breath. And if this just noticing feels right, just keep doing that. Just stay with the noticing. And if you like to work with your breath a little bit, you can breathe in through your nose and out through your nose. Breathe in through your nose, and maybe this time allow your belly to fill. And then exhale all the way to empty. And just feeling that now. Intentional breath moving in, filling the belly, and moving out. And as you're ready, you might just stay there if that feels good, as long as you want to. And if you feel ready to join us in conversation, you can start to open your eyes if they were closed. You can look around. Maybe take a look to the left, to the right. If there are any other people in your space, right? Look towards them and smile. And we will get started with our conversation. Welcome, Dr. Michelle.
Thank you. Thank you. It's so good to join you all. Thanks for having me.
Mm-hmm. Hi, Angela.
Hello. I was still breathing in that moment.
So. Oh, sorry.
Well, no need to say sorry. I suppose because I'm one of the hosts, I should come back. So no need to say sorry.
Fair enough.
But thank you for leading the grounding this morning.
Oh, yeah. So, Dr. Michelle, I keep calling you Dr. Michelle because I want to honor your study and scholarship. And we've met you. I feel like I want to use your first name, but let me know.
I'm comfortable with that. That's fine.
Okay. We would love for you we know your story a little bit. We love for you to share with our listeners, what brings you into relationship with children and their caregivers before we dive into our big questions.
So, sorry, probably because you did the grounding first. I was feeling some stuff. Good wounding, because that's where I'm going to start. So I was working in the aerospace industry as a business manager when Spirit nudged me to go back to school to become a family therapist. I had been getting the nudgings all along, and the local campus where Virginia Tech Virginia Polytechnic Institute and University of Virginia had a campus in Northern Virginia, just outside of Washington, D.C. And I've been getting nudgings, and I went to University of Virginia. I was like, when are you going to have a psychology department? And they're like, oh, not for another 5 years. And it's like, oh, okay. So there I am in my career in the aerospace industry. And I was invited to do a presentation for headquarters who was coming in to learn about our division. And I didn't want to do the presentation. I didn't want to do the presentation because I was Black and I thought that they wouldn't listen to me. They wouldn't hear what I had to share. And I told someone, and the vice president called me into his office and said, what do you mean you're not going to do the presentation to let them know what an awesome division we are? I said, well, it's not going to serve the division. I'm going to walk in, they're going to see I'm Black, and they're not going to listen to me. And he started laughing. He said, you're wrong. You're going to walk in, they're going to see you're a woman, and they're not going to want to listen to you. And I was like, okay. And so I did the presentation, and I did not realize it, but it was my interview to be a vice president in this Fortune 40 company. But by that time, Spirit had already awakened me one day, told me to go get my car washed. There was only one place I had to go get my car washed. And if Spirit is alive in your life, or in your listeners' lives, I'm going to encourage you to listen. Be obedient, follow through. We have no idea what's in store. So I got up, went to the one place I had to wash my car. When I was done, it was at a T, and I had to choose left or right. I was like, okay, I washed my car. What now? Nothing. Crickets. I washed my car. What do you want me to do now? Nothing. And then the car started to pile up behind me. Apparently, I needed that pressure, right? The car started to pile up behind me. I was like, I gotta go. Do I go left or right? Spirit said, go left. Now, there was only one thing that was left outside of that car wash, and that was the campus of Virginia Polytechnic Institute and University here in Virginia. And the whole time I'm driving down that road, I'm arguing with Spirit. Why am I going there? I already checked. They don't have a psychology department, blah, 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 blah. So then I park and I was like, what do I do now? And they were like, go inside. I don't know why I'm going inside. Okay, I'm still arguing. I get inside, like, what now? Check the directory. So I checked the directory at University of Virginia, UVA, right? And don't see anything. See, I told you they don't have a psychology department. And then I hear check the other side. Why am I going to check the other side? Right? Virginia Polytechnic, math, science, child and family development. Oh no, what do I do now? Go upstairs and get an application. So just to put it in perspective, I'm in my Daisy Dukes. Y'all know those really short shorts? My Daisy Dukes and a t-shirt with a neon blue owl on it. Okay, I'm going upstairs. Excuse me, can I get an application? Oh, sure, she gets an application. Do you have any questions? It's like, I had no idea I was coming here this morning. The president. So I'm reading through the application and I came up with a question and she couldn't answer. She says, oh, let me go see Sandy. So Sandy was just getting off the phone. And she came back and said, as soon as she gets off the phone, Sandy will see you. So when she gets off the phone, she invites me in. I sit down. 45 minutes later, Sandy stands up, extends her hand and says, and I'm Dr. Sandra Smith. I'm the director of the program. And I just had my first interview. So by the time I get offered the vice presidency in the aerospace industry, Spirit has opened the door for me to become a family therapist because this is the work I was born to do. I was born at a time when it was not okay to be pregnant and not married. And my biological grandmother did not want me to bring shame on the family. So I moved through several families as an infant before they decided on my great aunt to raise me. So I serve a population of children and families who have children with attachment trauma because that's the path I took when I entered this life. Long answer. I hope that was okay, but that's how I got here.
Oh, that's like bringing some of the themes from season 1. In season 1, we talked a lot about what is the love that brought you to teaching and caregiving. And a lot of it was a lot of what Lauren and I find is the spiritual piece of who we are brings us to caregiving and teaching. And even when we resist it or try to leave it or argue with the spirit, because I argue a lot with spirit. Like, but I just want to go. I don't want to do that. I don't care what you want. You're staying. Okay. Okay. Usually I mope about it. But okay. And so thank you for bringing your story in. And so, how might we sense into ancestral knowledge rather than reinforce survival mechanisms that no longer are serving us?
Wow, such a powerful question. And it brings my body to tears that you're asking that question, because we do need to pay attention, because as the scientists tell us, and there's a book, The DNA Field and the Law of Resonance by Pierre France, and he shows the research, and he says there that intergenerational trauma is alive in our body to keep us, to help us survive. Right? So survival threats are what the DNA really records of the people that we live with to ensure we live to another day. So that means always there's going to be information coming in through your body. And I'm going to invite everyone to stop and feel it. Get curious. The universe hates a vacuum. When you get curious, what's going on? I wonder what's happening here. When you get curious without an answer, the universe will answer you. Without the question. Ooh, I just felt that. Ooh, what's coming up? Ooh, I had this. What am I to do with this? And then you listen and have the courage to follow your guidance. You will be guided. We are guided. We are not alone in this thing called life. We might not always see everyone who's here supporting us, but we can hear, and it might be through strangers, might be a TV show, might be someone at the bus stop, right? Spirit uses all of us to support and guide. So what I would say is have a I started to say process, but that's not the word. Have a routine where you go to the heart. Heart Math Institute has lots of tools online for breathing through your heart. Maybe you meditate on a regular basis. Maybe you go out in nature. And the trees are so powerful. Another book is Behaving as If the God in All Life Mattered by Michelle Small Wright, and she teaches you how to get in relationship with the nature spirits by journaling, by listening, by following through. So those are just some of the ways that I would invite your listeners to connect with the wisdom that is all around us, feel into the field that we are a part of.
Oh, man. So I have to tell you a story, Dr. Michelle, because you introduced me to one of my ancestors that was calling me, and I didn't even want to listen. But they have kept on arriving.
Yes.
And this weekend, Lauren and I got to go hiking in Monadnock. It was a very hard mountain to climb, and my body is not what it used to be, and I'm trying to honor what it is right now, and also trying to be able to move comfortably again in my body at the moment. So we're going on this hike and this beautiful mountain, and well, the mountains hold our stories.
Um,
And so I'm on this mountain and I'm grumpy. We're coming down. It was much harder than I anticipated. My legs don't want to work anymore. And I'm standing there telling Lauren, I'm scared to go down. And Lauren's like, it's good to be scared a little bit. And I'm sure that this is Lauren being like, okay, if she gets really scared, she's not going to be able to make it. But scared is good for like also being able to move through things. I was
yes.
like, she's right. Okay. So then I'm still going down and my legs are all wobbly. And then Spirit decides to show up. And I'm like, not right now. I'm about.
Divine timing.
I was like, not right now. I cannot process. I need to make sure my knees and my brain are talking so that I don't roll over and fall. Like, that's all I have energy for. And the Spirit's like, nope, we're doing this right now. Right now. And I'm like, no. And so, like, Lauren's a baby about 3 yards. Well, she's a couple of meters ahead of me. And I'm like, okay. And all of a sudden, it's like childhood stories of my dad and our relationship. And I've been missing him a lot, and I've been too busy, which does seems like might sound like an excuse, but for the first time ever, I'm so busy that I can't even like have the brain capacity for a conversation with anybody. Um, and so I'm missing my dad, and then all of a sudden the stories are coming. And it's all of this like reminders of like going on hikes and not feeling like I could ask for a break or not feeling like I could ask for like support or dad, can you help me go through this? Or I'm feeling scared because it was always like, you're fine, you got it. You'll be okay, just keep going, which was his own way of also like making me strong, I realize. But I was like, I just needed a hug when I was going on those mountains as a baby. It was really like, so I was like, okay, just like sit with it. And then, and then the ancestors of the trees were like, remember what I told you in New Mexico? Remember to let me hold you?
Yeah.
Remember I told you to let me hold you? So like I'm on this mountain being reminded of all of these things that were so hard in my childhood or that I suppressed. And then the trees are saying, I got you. The roots have got you. The root, I will hold you while you get down this thing. And I was like, oh my God. It was very, very serious business for me on that mountain on Saturday. Uh, and I just needed to share that story with you because you're giving us beautiful tools, but that is also in relationship to how the Spirit arrives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You listened, and you were supported. They gave you the one thing you've always wanted. Just be here with me. And
Mm-hmm.
were, and they got loud enough that you could hear them and receive them. I just love it.
Mm,
Thank you
yeah.
for doing that.
Uh, thank you for listening. Yeah, I had to hold that story really seriously because I was like, we're going to talk to Dr. Michelle. So Lauren will hear the story that, or all the more detailed parts of the story.
Thank you, Lauren,
Uh,
for facilitating that.
yeah. It
That's
was
one of my
very. Go
it's
ahead.
a one a very powerful mountain. And my mother and I have hiked that mountain several times on Mother's Day. Um, and it's a long hike. But once you get, there's something about hiking above the tree line, that the vistas are just, everything looks and feels different than it does everywhere else. And there are some parts on that mountain where you have to hold on and pull yourself up into, hold on to the little cracks between the rocks. Not very, it's just like just enough to feel like you're like, wow, that was hard. It's a hard hike. Um, but as I'm listening to both of you talk about being able to hear, I'm thinking of times in my life when I couldn't. Like there were times when nothing was coming and I didn't I didn't know that that nothing was coming. I didn't know that I was, I guess, not necessarily it wasn't coming, that I wasn't listening.
Mhm, mhm,
Um, and there's so much, like, I've been with a dear one recently in terms of like talking about shame, and I don't want to let that in. Like, that hurts too much, that I can't be with myself. But when we do that, like, we also block out everything, and it's lonely. It's lonely there.
Mm.
Um, so I'm feeling gratitude right now, because I have felt I can listen
mhm.
lately. Um, I get dolphins keep coming to me in my dream and in real life. Yeah, I was in lucky enough to be in Puerto Rico, and there were dolphins swimming in between the people. I was like, what? Do dolphins choose that? Wow. They didn't like the people to touch them, and then they slapped their tails on the water. But that's also, I don't know, I was thinking about you, Dr. Michelle, and wondering, this is not, no, it's not explicitly in our questions, but I was thinking about boundaries, and even that dolphin like whacking its tail on the top of the water, be like, you can come close, but you can't touch. Or like, I'm just thinking about like when we are like, especially in the work you do is so tender. And I remember you talking about, I forget the beautiful way that somebody on your team said it, but is somebody really here to do the work? Right? Like, what if somebody isn't here to do the work? What if somebody's in my life, or what if it's me? What if, you know, I wonder if there's something about boundaries as we are discerning between, an urge to survive and a move to thrive, that, I don't know, is anything coming for you related to that?
Um, yeah, so, yeah. It's such a good question to ask because it means you're bringing awareness. And awareness is number one. When
Mm-hmm.
we are aware that we're not open, that we are shut down. And usually when we're shut down, it's out of fear. Don't want to experience the pain, don't think we'll survive the pain. So the story that comes for me was after my divorce of 20 years. I'm in the guest room as my ex has taken out bedroom furniture. And which is really good because now I'm right next to a window, which means I'm right next to nature, right? So awesome. And in that twilight space, that space between being awake and being asleep, spirit shows up with this like cobalt blue glass bottle, and it has a cork in it. And they show me this bottle. Never seen this bottle before in my life. But when they showed it to me, I knew what was in there. All the pain I survived through my childhood.
Oof.
And they show me this bottle, and I start arguing. No, no, right? And they I don't know if you've ever argued with your spirit guides, but it's to no avail. Right?
I think we call that rough and tumble.
And I realized they were asking me, just by showing me the bottle, they were asking me to take the cork out and feel the feelings. Let the pain wash over me. And as I start arguing, it's because I'm afraid I won't survive the pain. That's why I stopped it in the first place.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I had to remove the cork. No was not an answer. And so, with my intention, with my mind, I take the cork out. And yes, the pain washed over me. It was as bad as I thought it would be. But in 90 seconds, it had gone through my body, and I had survived. And with the bottle in my face, Spirit said, going forward, feel the feelings in the moment. Allow them to communicate with you, process them, and then move forward. Let it go. So that is what I would say. When you feel those feelings, get grounded. You know how to ground. Okay, I'm nervous, or I'm scared, or okay, this is overwhelming. Okay, but I'm willing to listen. Let me get grounded first. Okay, bring it on. What is it you want me to hear? What is it that's being communicated that I need to listen to? And you could have a journal to write down what you're getting. In Michelle Small Wright's book, she says, write it down, it brings it into this dimension. What Spirit said to me is when they see what we're writing, if we're not getting the message, they shift the energy. We don't have to. They are in charge, and they'll make sure that they transmit the information in a way we can receive. Would that be helpful?
That makes me think of our last guest was my yoga and mindfulness teacher, Patty Townsend. And something that she says in class often, and we've done movement, we've moved around, and now we're standing at the top of our mats. And something she says is going nowhere, doing nothing. That almost makes me feel like, we push so hard away because we don't want to feel that thing again. But we don't actually have to do anything. It's that we don't have to do it. We can stop doing something. That's what we have to do, is stop doing the thing. and it also reminds me of Tracy Chapman has a lyric, I'm ready to let the river wash over me.
Yes.
That is a mantra. I don't even know the rest of the song, but that line is like, it just makes me feel like that is a very soothing mantra. But you said something about what you said made me think of a river, or like moving through or washing through. Yeah. That all of that feels like, oh, wait, I just be still, let the thing move.
Yes, absolutely. And when we do that and we're open, information is revealed. We get what we need. Yeah. I like that. Be still. Still and know. Yeah.
Yeah. It's making me think of like being humble enough to surrender.
Yes.
And even like in the surrender, how like, or even in the release of, or like in the process of letting go or of being still, there's but I can't sit still, but I don't know, like I have to be busy, but like even that is information that the body's giving you of something that like you might need to be processing. Like, why can't you stay still in the moment of trying to be still? Um, uh, that's what it's making me think of.
And questions are so powerful. Like I said, when we ask questions, we create a vacuum. And that's when the universe comes in to answer. Like, what's keeping me from being still? What's that feeling? What is this restlessness? Right? Just our right brain, the 11 million bit processor, versus our left brain, the 7-bit processor that has to know. Right? Be open to learning.
I've been teaching a few classes in Spanish, and in all of them, and even in my own life recently, there's this image in my head that of like elongating the process of, in the context of being with my students, it's elongating the observation process or elongating the process of understanding context. But it sort of feels like this like cylinder space that like usually feels so tight, and there's so much pressure that comes with like reporting and creating data analysis and all of the things that like we need in order for funding or for the business to do the business thing. But like when it comes to, even, but I don't even know how to describe it in so many ways of like, but even in having to do all of that, there is like power in like stretching out or elongating that process that allows for like the more questions to come. So like to dive deeper into understanding the context of a family-child relationship, of an adult-peer relationship, of a teacher-student relationship. That's what is making me think of this, like the thing of slowing down also allows for space
Yes.
for more to arise or for
Yes.
more to be revealed.
Exactly right. Spot on. Yes.
Yeah.
That feels like an invitation to the next question.
Mm.
The next question is, how do connecting with earth rhythms and caring for ourselves and each other help in these processes of discernment? I mean, even like for the listeners, Angela was like grabbing the air in the center of the space and then closing her fingertips around it and pulling it out to the sides. That's what I saw happening. But I'm even wondering, like, what is that what is that as an earth rhythm? I almost think of like, now that I'm doing it with my hands, I feel like the breath, or I don't know, there's that, we talk about the pulsation a lot, and even kind of the magnetism of the waves as they fall on the beach and then pull back into the ocean and then pour out. But what kind of earth rhythms call you or guide you, Dr. Michelle?
What I hear in all of that is mindfulness is what comes up for me. Because nature calls me into the now moment. And the left brain's time reference is the past. We're projecting that into the future. So I'm missing what's happening right now when I'm in small 7-bit processor, right? But when I'm in my right brain, my 11 million bit processor, its time reference is now, the present. And when I can show up in the now, there is so much data and information that I have through, right? So the brain only notices what it expects to notice, right? So I have to lift the filter so that I can take in what I'm not expecting. I can take in all the glorious wonders and data and information that is being shared with me in this powerful now moment. That's what nature does for me. The birds sing to me to wake me up. The breeze, the green in the trees, it calls me into the now. What it is I need to have show up for the next part of my healing journey, when I'm in the now, I can receive it and I can see it and I can learn, heal, and grow through.
Dr. Michelle, it's because presence is the ancient technology of caring.
Mic drop.
Spirit brought that to me this winter over the holiday season, in a conversation with Lauren. And so I don't say it very often, but that I was like, just has to be said in this moment. It feels so resonant with what you're saying.
Yeah, can you repeat that, please? That was so powerful.
Its presence is the ancient technology of caregiving.
Yeah. Presence is the ancient technology of caregiving. Because when we show up as caregivers in the now moment, we will know what the other needs. Right? We don't go into the past. Oh, yeah, well, that must be this. No. Come not knowing and allow self to be shown what is needed in this present moment. Of that.
And children are masters of that. I always think about, I mean, I write about it too. It's like, you're talking to a toddler and you're like, oh, I see that you're playing and you seem sad that you have to stop, but we got to go do this thing over there. And for them, that's like, we're never going to do this thing again. Like that message just means we're all done doing this forever. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
because this is all there is right now. I don't really care what you have to do over there, Mom. Like
Mm-hmm.
this is it for me. And so it's like it's their whole reality is right now, which we can learn from. I mean, it really like I think we talked about. Oh yeah, we did. So Angela also brought us this idea of using the idea of cartilage as this kind of like cushion in between here and there, and we think about transitions a lot. I think. Oh yeah, we shared that work with you. But even children being just demanding our presence. And the
Mm,
harder we resist that, the more intense the interaction is going to be. Like they're just like, no, it's now. It's
yes.
now,
Mm-hmm.
now. And we're
Mm-hmm.
like, but
Mm-hmm.
the thing, we have to do the thing then. Or the thing I always like, somebody falls down or trips or whatever. I'm like, see, I told you, if you run, you're gonna get hurt. I'm like, is that the best thing you could say right now? I mean, I've probably said that before. I'm not saying that with judgment. I really am just like, they just really do require us to be like, yeah, but I fell right now, but I'm hurt right now. Like, right?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Are you okay? How can I help?
Mm-hmm.
Right, come on into this now. Come
Mm-hmm.
Right.
here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it wasn't our plan as
Mm,
the adult. It was not our plan, but being present is their invitation to us to also be present, to join them in that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It feels like the next thing is so important, so much more important, but it's actually now that's important. Yeah.
Really, as little children, they have so much to teach us. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And they
Mm.
do notice. They notice tiny little ants, and they notice the things that are happening that we can hardly see because I love how you said that. And actually for the listeners too, Dr. Michelle I think you put your fingers kind of down over your forehead and like lift it up because what did you say? The brain only sees what it expects.
Yeah.
That is so powerful, right? If
Mm-hmm.
but that's like being human, right? But if we remember that, as often as we remember that, we would be like, oh, hey, I might be missing something. Children ask us to notice things we were missing all the
Uh-huh.
time. Like,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Absolutely. That's Charlotte Shelton's work. I don't remember the name of the book, but she says 80% of what we experience in the now moment, 80% is based on the filter that we have in place. And what is the filter based on? The past.
yep.
So that means 80% of the now moment is the past running, but the other 20% is fresh data. It's fresh, but it's way too much data for me to pick up. So I use the filter to determine what do I pay attention to in this now moment.
Mm,
As I lift the filter, I'm only going to pay attention to the things that agree with the past. So I am totally missing the gift of the present.
Mm-hmm.
mm. Oh, yeah. And that moment when the child goes to connect, right? Instead of
Yes.
resist, right? In that
Mm-hmm.
moment, you talked about that while we were there. And I think about that a lot in terms of supporting children who kind of resist our connection at first. But if we expect they're going to resist our connection, and then we're going to miss it when they don't, when
Mm.
they say yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Look for those opportunities for connection. Oh, I can see this is hard for you. Thank you for letting me know. Okay, can we just sit in this for a moment?
Mm-hmm.
Can we just breathe together? Thank you. Oh, yeah. How's that feel now? And then you can see it in their body. Hey, when you didn't follow what they anticipated, when you join them in the now, it's like, huh?
Yes, yes, yes.
Mhm.
It's like 80% of challenging behavior goes away as soon as you notice what's
Yes.
happening, as soon as everybody's paying attention
Mm.
in an intentional way. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely.
That's
And they
making me, oh, go ahead.
go ahead.
Uh, that's making me think of, well, one of the last times I was in a childcare setting, I was with I was with a colleague, and the children had to be removed from the school building, like in an emergency because there was a very bad smell in the building. They didn't know where the fumes were coming from, so all the children got evacuated, and they were like in this little outdoor playground in the middle of very hot summer Massachusetts, in the middle of the city of Boston. And my friend called me and said, I need help. Will you come over? And I was walking distance. So I came over, and there was lots of babies playing and a lot of adults trying to get parents to come. And it's particularly a community that has a lot of adverse experiences.
Mm.
It's a school specifically that serves children experiencing homelessness. And and one of the babies was like, out, whatever like they're outside. It's hot. This isn't their routine. And it was like, you have to sit down, you have to do this thing, you have to do that. And like that human was like, I just need to like go move my body. And like the little bit knowledge that I have of occupational therapy, I was like, I think you just need to like be upside down or run around, like get some body inputs. But I wasn't the teacher and I didn't know anybody. And so every time he would look at me, I would make a space with him or I would show him how he could jump down. That was a safe way. And suddenly he lost his balloon got caught somewhere. And one of the teachers or my colleague came to model to me and to the teachers what we're supposed to do when this happens. But my colleague had not noticed that this person had lost something. So he was now doing a behavior that she felt she needed to teach us how to handle. Um, and so she was like doing something to his body, and he was like pushing her and resisting her. And like I just got closer and I was like, actually, he's looking up there because he lost his toy, and now he doesn't know how to get it down. He's not looking at birds or branches. Um, and she was like, oh, I didn't know. And I was like, I know. But I think that story came to me because it makes me also think or it's pushing me towards like even in like considering the current conditions of early childhood or even of social services in relationship to children, there is this sort of there is this movement to provide supports at at the expense of exploitation, perhaps because there still isn't enough funding in social service spaces. And also, like, how that is also a potential disruption to the ability to be present or to build authentic connection. And I'm wondering, um, how do we sort of remember or envision or cultivate um, a oh, and play in a third space when those are the two things fighting with each other.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I love that's an excellent example of what I was just sharing because the other teacher, the other resource person came over based on the past. I know how to handle this now moment. Right?
Mhm.
And she totally missed, right? Totally missed it. As opposed to what you were doing is getting curious and joining
Mm,
the student in the now. Wow, I see what's coming. Oh, you're looking up because you lost your balloon. Oh, I see. Okay, how's that feel? What are you
mm,
doing now? Right? And then just connect authentically in the now. Go to a place of not knowing. That's our point of power, right? The place of not knowing when you ask, the universe is going to rush in and answer. And when you're doing it with another in that authentic connection, the universe is going to come serve both of you in that. There's safety. Safety. One.
Reciprocity.
Mm. Let me be there for you as you're there with me. We're not taught that. We get so, and your example just highlights for me how we miss these opportunities to connect authentically with one another. We think we know. My 7-bit processor is going to tell you what's going on here.
Right. And I'm thinking back to what we were talking about at the beginning of, right, if we haven't made space for our own suffering experience of in Buddhism, they say that suffering is a result of resisting the pain. Right? It's like we're talking about surrender. This came up for us over the weekend too, after the mountain trip. but like, if we are so afraid of the pain, then when someone else feels pain or begins to, we just try to make that go away, like we try to make our own pain go away. And sometimes it comes out. I feel like we have a lot of positivity in early childhood education, and a lot of people want to come to work and always have a smile on their face and make sure the children are happy all day. But that's really saying no to a lot of being human. It's hard. It's not. This is not a. This is. Sometimes it is easier to just put a smile on your face and pretend something isn't happening, or distract somebody from what they are experiencing, or just, shove somebody along and go to the next thing. But as you were saying, Dr. Michelle, it's like, if I don't process this now, it's not going away. It's still in the bottle. It's still there. And it's going to, at some point, it's going to remind me that it's there. I might as well try to have a relationship with it now. But it is so hard to do that for children if we haven't done that for ourselves.
Yes. There's one of my favorite supervisors in my master's program. We're not related at all, but Dr. Jane Coleman said, you cannot take someone anywhere you have not gone. Yeah, because as a matter of fact, you'll block them, right? So a therapist or a teacher. And because we are human, we have a mirror neuron system, and our mirror neuron system fires. If I know what you are experiencing, the emotion you're experiencing, it will be recreated in my body. Maybe not for the same reasons. I might experience that pain or that joy for different reasons, but I know that emotion, right? And playwrights and movie directors and everybody knows that that's what they're playing on when they're creating a movie, right? They want us to feel for the character. However, when we can show up with that youth, with their parent, with that coworker, feeling that thing, if we can show up in the now moment and stop and go, oh, I'm feeling something. Give me a moment. Let me see what's coming up. This is what I do in therapy. Not all the time, but sometimes people will have such a big body reaction, and yet their head is shutting it down. They're not listening to it. But I will get in resonance. That's when two coherent beings connect. Mind, body, spirit in relationship is coherence. And so two coherent beings connect. We're in resonance. I get the download. So let me tell you a story. So I was the clinical director of a residential facility, and it was my job to go out and interview the referrals that we got to see if the kids were a good fit for the house at that time. So I went to this hospital where there was a 12-year-old boy, and as I'm sitting with him, I'm asking him questions, and he says, yes, no, I don't know, right? No, I'm not getting a feel for this kid at all. And as I'm listening to him, I noticed that my body is starting to bend over. Like, this has never happened before, right? And here I am, bent in half. So I say to him, give me a moment. And I check in with my body, the question, right? The point of power. And I say to my body, what's going on? And my body says, it feels like I'm carrying a heavy load. Now, as a caregiver, as a teacher, as a therapist, we always have to make sure it's not our work. So we always ask the question, is that mine?
Mm.
That you get, right? So here I am bent in half and I say, is that mine? And I hear, no, not mine. So I look over at the young boy and I said, I don't know if you noticed, but while we've been talking, my body kind of like bent in half. And when I check in with my body, the answer I get about what's going on is it feels like I'm carrying a heavy load. Before I could finish getting the question out, which was going to be, is that how you feel? The 12-year-old says, oh my God, that's exactly how I feel. Blah, 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 blah. And he just like, lets it all out. Had I not asked the question, had I just said, oh, what's wrong? I need to sit up. What's wrong with me? Right. Had I just gone there, I would have missed that opportunity to connect. I would have missed the message his body was sending my body. From the right brain, bodies communicate with one another. Listen. Sorry.
That's like a different level of nervous system relationships. That was deep. That's, I was like, whoa, that's like beyond nervous systems. It feels so much more.
But
Well, I don't know, but
when we practice what the right brain needs, creativity, music, dance, though that's the language of the right brain. Going out in nature, being curious, lift weights for your right brain, and then that too will happen for you. You will you connect it with spirit out in nature.
The question you asked, is this mine, is so important. And we don't have, or we perceive that we don't have enough time to ask that question, right? Or so we just adjust our seats. That's a very powerful story. And I love that you explain that it's the asking that's powerful, because often we associate the asking means I don't know, right? And this is not something I consciously subscribe to, but it is in the culture in the United States. So the dominant culture is, right, I'm supposed to know, or I signed up to be a teacher, therefore I'm supposed to be the one that knows the answers. And then we cut off our spiritual self when we walk into the classroom, because we're taught separation of church and state, but that's different, right, than being a spiritual being in the classroom. And so we don't have to have the same spirituality as our students for our spirituality to guide our interactions that are going to serve everybody. That is like, what if that, I don't know, I'm thinking about like our facilitated transitions and transitions as healing spaces. And thank you, Dr. Michelle, because I think there's something about that space to ask questions that is medicine. That's the medicine.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there is, I was able to go on a pilgrimage this year to India, and we visited a mountain. Here comes the mountain again. The mountains hold our stories. And there is a mountain called Arunachala where people go on pilgrimage and walk around the base of the mountain. And you can meditate and chant inside, but you also hear the chanting outside. There's just like a recording of a chant of somebody chanting just all the time going. And it's a very like full spectrum place. There's also a lot of trash and poverty around, and this very high vibration of this spiritual mountain that's here in these old temples that have been, dug out from underneath vines and everything, that nobody knows who built them, all around the mountain. So it's just a very full, like it is life itself there. So we spent some time on this mountain. There's a place where you can go and meditate, a few different places, and I felt play is something that I struggle with because again, now I'm going to tell a story inside of a story. I saw a family outside from the restaurant where I was sitting at, and they were eating ice cream. And maybe there was like another 12-year-old boy, maybe. He was rolling on the hill behind them and playing like my preschoolers would. He just had not a care in the world. All of a sudden, he gets up and he's like goes to stand with he's the only kid with the group, but he goes to stand with the adults and like starts moving around like they're moving around, standing and looking very boring compared to how he had looked rolling around on the hill and having so much fun. And I was like, oh, there's something that happens in adolescence where we like all of a sudden we're like, oh wait, I'm not a kid anymore. I need to like separate myself from playfulness because it's not adulting. And so I have had that for so long in myself and felt it as I felt it as a barrier between me and the world. And when I was sitting on that mountain, it was the last time I sat on the mountain for meditation, I could feel it felt like, when I was a kid, my dad used to put me up on his feet. It felt like the mountain was playing with me like that. And it brought tears to my eyes because I was like, oh, there's something here. Like the mountain is holding my story or our stories, right? And so I wanted to bring that home with me, but I knew that like this was a special moment in order to do that. But it is that like, if we can invoke that spirit of play in a moment where we feel we have to be a thing or have to get to the next thing or we have to teach the child something right now or whatever it is, it's like, well, this could actually be a playful experience first. It doesn't, we'll get to the teaching, but maybe like it's the play that is the teaching.
But in play, we connect. We connect authentically in play, and connection is first, right? Before I can teach anyone anything, they have to first care about what it's bringing, right?
Yeah.
They have to care when they experience me, and we experience one another. Play is so powerful. Yes.
We get to experience one another. I love that.
Imagine
Yes.
we're on together to experience one another. What a novel concept.
Yeah.
Could you send me the name of that mountain? I'd like to look into that.
Oh, yes, I will. There's some beautiful, somebody has made some beautiful film of the mountain as well. Yeah, that you can, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Very powerful.
I'm feeling so full right now. This was so beautiful. Thank you.
And thank you so much, Dr. Michelle.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I was talking yesterday with my beloved about how in our society, our spiritual nature is not nurtured. Little children see beings in other dimensions. Like babies will coo and talk to. What is that? Look, there's something there. Ignore that, right? As opposed to, oh, say hello. Like reinforce it. That's how they get to learn the names of things. That's how they get to join us in this third dimensional reality, is because we reinforce it. So instead of telling them there's nothing there, just, oh, who is that? Say hello. Right? Why are we afraid of other dimensions and that which we cannot see? Why do we try to breed it out of kids, teach it out of kids, shut it down, make it wrong, medicate it, diagnose it, put it in the hospital, right? At 50,000 women drowned in England because they were right brain and they were open to all that the universe had to offer. In your area, in New England, women were burned at the stake for being quote unquote witches. No, we are multidimensional beings. What do we need to allow that to be okay so that we can learn? Energy that's wiser than us, that yes, we have something to give, but we also have much to learn. So when you say, Angela, that you are full, that's what I feel. Your spiritual nature is being fed. And I wish we could do more of that in our society. So I really honor what the two of you are bringing. We need these conversations, and it just makes my body cry. I'm so grateful for you.
Thank you. And thank you for planting the seeds for us to be able
Very
to.
good seeds.
Yeah. Yes. And I hope that people will visit your center's website and learn more about the work that you're doing, because it is just for the listeners, what we got to see was we get to see all these, they're called stars, I think, of all the children who've dropped a diagnosis and have achieved healthy attachment with their dear ones. But it was to see all of the stars that are each unique because the child made them in youth as well. I'm not sure what year, if it's mostly youth or mostly younger children, but it was just, you could just feel walking into this space, and the light comes from above in your space, which also kind of feels right. But there's just something magical happening there. I could just feel it. So thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Michelle.
Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for the work you're doing and bringing to the world. I honor you, both of you, and your work.
Thank you. And thank you to the listeners. To keep the conversation going and for monthly reflection prompts related to each episode, sign up for our mailing list.
And if you want to play with us in real time, exploring the ideas in this episode, please come to the next campfire chat. We look forward to our next sacred conversation with you.
Check out the show notes for details.